one, that an environment, national security means an environment where the citizen is able to pursue his aspirations in a peaceful atmosphere. So you must be able to go to work in the morning, come back in the evening, you must be able to go to different parts of the country, in travel safely without being robbed, stolen, raped or murdered or something like that. And therefore a secure environment, peaceful secure environment is a requirement of national security. And that is something the society must aim for. It also requires that the nation is able to defend its territory and its borders, and as a consequence ensure an orderly society which is based on the rule of law. These are some of the components of national security. So what does that mean, these general words? First of all, it means that your defense must be adequate. And that means what? I would say that defense must be adequate to protect the country from the territorial boundaries with other countries, as well as from attack from the oceans. And India is in such a strategic position if we can defend it. We have got a northern barrier called the Himalayas, which makes very difficult for our enemies to cross. The 1962 Chinese attack did come across the Himalayas, but it was our failure, or rather it was Jawaharlal Nehru's failure, to be able to take those courageous decisions which would have arrested the Chinese progress to further south. For example, if he had used the Air Force to bomb the supply lines of the Chinese. The Chinese today have got a very long supply line which goes through Tibet, which is a hostile territory for the Chinese who are based in power in Beijing. But Jawaharlal Nehru lost his nerve, and in fact even made a broadcast farewell to Assam, goodbye, and so on. And ultimately the Indian nation said goodbye to Jawaharlal Nehru, and his tenure ended. You cannot, by speeches and talking about peace, secure the boundaries of the country. You need adequate defense, and you need at least in my opinion, 5 to 6% of your GDP allotted to the defense expenditure, and that expenditure should be mostly for acquisition of weaponry and hardware, armory, and so on. Today, our defense expenditure is under 2%. A good part of it goes for rations and wages and allowances for the soldiers. The remaining part on weapons expenditure is cut down because commissions are being paid in big amounts. Huge commissions are being paid, and it's difficult for people like me outside the government to prosecute these because there are so many and they involve foreign countries. Take for instance this helicopter deal with Italy. Italy has produced large documents, but we are not able to get those because the government is not interested. And you have the French jets, the Rafale jets, which is proved to be the most expensive jet. No country in the world except India is buying it. But then the Indian leadership is ready to accept bribes, so we are buying the Rafale jet from the French. In fact, the Dassault company which produces Rafale jet had told the French president that if this Indian order does not come through, then we will have to close down our company because we are running such heavy losses. And then the French president's Italian wife spoke to our Italian and got this deal through. So even on the question of defense expenditure, we are engaging in corruption. So this one thing is very important. We must spend 5 to 6% mostly on acquiring hardware to equip our army. And that army must be army which is ready to retaliate. Not that you can get your head severed and you do nothing except to go to New York to meet the Prime Minister of Pakistan. So therefore, first and foremost requirement of the national security is an adequate defense to secure your borders and your territory. The second requirement is freedom from terror. Today, terror has become a good part of India. You have terrorism. You have it in Andhra, you have it in Orissa, you have it in Northeast, you had it in Tamil Nadu. But in 1991, Chandrasekhar became Prime Minister, I became the senior most minister. I had two portfolios, law and commerce. And we decided that we will finish off LTT in Tamil Nadu. And as a consequence, the job was given to me. We dismissed the DMK government. Everybody said that we could dismiss the DMK government, rivers of blood will flow, buses will be burned, buildings will be burned. Well, in the end, we did dismiss the government, but even a cycle was not burned. And all the principal people like Karunanidhi and all have gone and ran to their houses and closed their doors and sat down. So if the state decides to do something, it can be done. And today LTTs, whatever is there is all in the name of Tamil rights and so on, but they don't openly dare to come out and engage in these activities. It can be done and it must be done. You must be strong in fighting terrorism. There is no room for being sympathetic to terrorists, saying, oh, it's poverty. What do you mean poverty? Osama bin Laden was a billionaire. You see, most of the terrorist leaders today are very, very rich people. And they are financing it because in most Arab countries, for example, money is very easy. You just dig a hole in the ground, some oil comes out, and you export it. That's all they do. Most of these Arab countries do not have any industry at all. From Morocco to Indonesia, what do you find? Do you find any industries? It's all financial corporations and merchant banks and so on, because of the money that is earned from oil. So we have to match that. We have to see that the terrorists are tackled. There are different kinds of terrorists we have. We have Islamic terrorists, we have atheist terrorists like the Naxalites, we have the Christian terrorists up in Nagaland, Manipur. But, and of course, the government says they are Hindu terrorists, but I have been looking all over to see where they are, and I am not able to find them. So, therefore, we must devise a strategy for fighting terror on a plan which requires eliminating them and finishing them off. That is the only cure for terrorism. There is no cure for negotiated settlement with terror. Then there is the question of corruption, which is a national security problem. Why is it a national security problem? Because it is corroding your system. Today, why is it that the government of India is not able to take a strong stand against Pakistan? Why is it that the government of India is not able to take a strong stand against Dawood Ibrahim? It is because the corrupt ministers use the Hawala agents to transfer their money to dollars in foreign illegal bank accounts. And these Hawala people go to Dubai, and from there they make the telephone connection to Switzerland and other places, Cayman Island and the Isle of Man near England, all these places, and they transfer the money electronically. In Dubai, you cannot do business. The Hawala people cannot do business unless they get the cooperation of the ISI, which is well placed in Dubai. And the ISI only requires one thing: all the details of whose account you are depositing and how much must be given to the ISI. Today the ISI knows the list of all ministers and people who are more powerful than ministers, who are sitting above ministers and prime ministers. They know the details of their bank accounts. I cannot believe, therefore not surprised that our ministers don't want to take a strong position against Pakistan or Dawood Ibrahim, because tomorrow a bank transaction will be published in the front page of newspapers showing which minister has transferred how much money, and that will be the end of him. So therefore they take this off. Today we can fight Pakistan on the battlefield, but we are unable to fight with them because the nerves of these ministers is compromised by their corruption. And corruption also therefore compromises our intelligence. We know that who is printing duplicate notes. How is that possible? Because India prints its currency notes on a special paper which we do not produce. We buy it from a company in Britain. It's called De La Rue Company. This De La Rue Company gives you that special paper with watermark and all, then we send it to Nasik and there it gets printed. Our intelligence agencies told our people, particularly the finance minister, Mr. Chidambaram, that this De La Rue also produces paper for Pakistan. And therefore, if we buy from this company, according to our specification, it's a private company, that private company can sell it to Pakistan also. ISI will come and say, give us one sample for India or give us, print something more for us also, the Indian paper. And that is why ISI has got now a huge racket of bogus currency, duplicate currency that they have brought to India. And it's very difficult to describe it because the watermark, everything is there. How do they get it? It is through this method. And why? Because I am sure that Mr. Chidambaram's son has got a big fat kickback from the De La Rue company. Otherwise, why should he not look for another country or put on a serious effort, make a serious effort to produce in our country? What can be produced in our country? You can produce anything. So corruption erodes you in so many ways, and therefore we have to fight corruption. How to fight corruption is an important part of national security strategy. So I will say, first of all, how can we develop a national security strategy? For that, we need an Indian mind to be developed. You said Indian first. Yes, we are Indians first. Then only we are everything else. If you are tomorrow going to have Telangana, you must be Indian first and then only a Telangana. And therefore, your Seema Andhra people are also your brothers and sisters. Tamil Nadu, I say the same thing. We are Indians first and Tamils afterwards. If the Tamil desires clash with Indian aims, then the Indian aims will prevail. I was surprised that the Tamil Nadu Assembly passed a resolution that those who killed Rajiv Gandhi should be forgiven because the Tamil aspiration is that they should be given. I of course said that this is the most idiotic resolution passed in the history of the world anywhere, but they passed it, not realizing that there is an Indian interest. There a foreign terrorist organization comes and kills your man who was your prime minister, a citizen of your country who was your prime minister, and you say Tamil aspirations require that they be forgiven. So this mentality has to be removed. We must start thinking of ourselves as Indians. And we are Indians. The British brainwashed us to think we are Aryans and Dravidians and this and that. But now the DNA test has been done and it shows that we are all one people. The DNA at least is all one people. People sometimes say skin color, northerners are lighter than southerners. That's because of the sun. It's got nothing to do with race. That's pigmentation. There used to be a singer in America called Michael Jackson. I'm sure you all have heard of Michael Jackson. He's dead now. He was a black African, of African descent. And one day he went to the doctor and he said, I read in a book that pigmentation is color, so please take out my pigmentation so that I can look like a white man. And the doctor, through plastic surgery, removed his pigmentation and he looked like a white man. Nobody could tell that he was a black man until he saw his brothers or sisters. So therefore we are one people, and I have tested this in my own case when Raj Thackeray said that these UP walas and Biharis, they are taking all our Marathi jobs. So I said, and what difference does it make to one Indian taking a job away from another Indian? They are all serving the same cause. Then thought came to me, why not I prove his DNA is the same? So I asked a friend, he said, I told him, you know Raj Thackeray, and he said, yes. I said, can you get me a sample of his hair? Because DNA can be tested by hair. So he said, I go to the same hairdresser that he goes, so next time I'll get you in a bottle some hair of his. So he got me, after 2 weeks, he got me a bottle of his hair. Then I went and gave 10 rupees to a taxi driver, UP taxi driver, and said, give me a sample of your hair. He thought I was crazy, but anyway, for 10 rupees he said, take it. And that hair I sent it to Hyderabad. You have a microbiological laboratory and tested it. Both DNA same, the result was same. I went to Bombay, addressed a press conference. I said, I have proved that Raj Thackeray also came from UP because his DNA is the same. So I want our people to think of themselves Indians. We are of Indian blood, we are of this. That is why I formulated the theory that we are Hindus and those others who are not Hindus, their DNA is also the same. The Journal of Genetics of University of Cambridge has published a study which shows that Muslim DNA and Hindu DNA is the same. So it's either you are a Hindu or your ancestors were Hindus. And I said you must accept that. If you think your ancestors Muhammad Ghori and Ghazni, then we created one country for those Muslims who don't want to live with Hindus. So I said then you don't belong there. And if you want to live here, then no vote for you. People in Harvard nowadays get money from Saudi Arabia and all these things. And so the Saudi Arabians got very agitated, saying, what is this? Your man is teaching here and we are giving so much money and he is propagating this. So they said, I was teaching economics. I was not teaching Islamic law or anything like that. I was teaching economics, that too mathematical economics. Nobody in my class complained. The Department of Economics strongly recommends every year that I should be invited. But these religion people and all, and then one or two people like crazy Naxalites like Amartya Sen, they ganged up. And Sonia Gandhi gave them support. And therefore they said no. When the faculty catalogue came for approval, they removed my course. This year they asked me, I said, I'm not coming till you apologize. And I'm not going to go again because now I'm going to be too busy in this country. I'm doing them a favor. So I'm saying that I still say to the Muslims, if you accept that your ancestors are Hindus, you become part of the family. We all become Hindustanis. But if you say Ghazni and Ghori are your ancestors, then we created one separate country for you. That's the best place for you. You cannot be in this country and claim that you are descendants of Ghori, or you prove it by DNA. I'm willing to call any Muslim who says that he is descendant, cannot prove it. We must create this oneness. Even caste, I'm telling you. Brahmin DNA and scheduled caste DNA is the same. I can prove it to anybody who wants to prove it. Therefore, when the original Varna system was created, it was not created on birth. It was created on discipline. Those who pursued knowledge, those who took up arms, those who earned money, those who tilled the land, and a very, very small number who created some social crime who were moved out of the society and called untouchable. But the children of a Brahmin is not necessarily a Brahmin. Children of a Kshatriya is not necessarily a Kshatriya, and same children of scheduled caste are not necessarily scheduled caste. I would call that those who pursued the professions accordingly, they will have that. For example, Vedavyasa's mother was a fisherwoman. He became Maharishi, he wrote the Mahabharata. Valmiki's mother and father were Dalits. He became Maharishi and wrote the Ramayana. Kalidasa, the greatest poet we produced, was cutting wood in the forest. Later he became the biggest rishi and he became the biggest poet we ever had. Vishwamitra was born in a Kshatriya family. He became Rishi of Rishis. Even the gods were afraid of him. And if a Brahmin broke the law, then he was punished. And Ravan was a Brahmin. And he was punished because he abducted Sita. And he was killed by a Kshatriya. The Brahmins didn't say, hey, this Kshatriya has killed one of our Brahmins. They didn't say that. We celebrate, whether you're Brahmin, Kshatriya, or anybody, we celebrate Ram. And therefore, this caste system, of course, now, because the course of connected with birth, become useless. Let us now start thinking of ourselves as only Hindu and nothing else. This is what But our country still slowly is coming around. But you see what happened? Jawaharlal Nehru was the most illiterate person I know. He was called Pandit. And the most educated politician we have had in those periods was Dr. Ambedkar, and he was called scheduled caste. I mean, Ambedkar should be called Pandit, and this Jawaharlal Nehru should be called scheduled caste. So, therefore, we need to unite the Indians in one psychological frame of mind, and that is Hindus or ancestors are Hindus. And I can tell you, even Parsis and Jews, they all have. In fact, the Parsis, when they came, they had only 90 men. They had 90 men and only 6 women. The Shakracharya of Dwarka then provided them marriages, enabled them to get married, and that's how the Parsis grew to this strength. So we are one people. This is now modern science proves it. So this is one thing necessary for national security. Otherwise, everything is that fellow is a Bengali, let him suffer. This fellow is a Madrasi, let him suffer. No. We are all one people and we should have one frame of mind. The second thing that we need is, we need to recognize, and as Indians, that there are some symbols on which we should not compromise. Now, for example, this Ram temple issue. Now, a masjid was built on an existing temple. And then a movement developed. Unfortunately, the mob took control of the masjid and demolished it. It was an unauthorized demolition. But can you compare a temple with a masjid? So I posed this question to a scholar in Saudi Arabia. I said, what is the status of a masjid in your country? He said, why you ask? I said, because I have seen in your newspapers, you are demolishing masjids and building roads. In fact, the masjid where Muhammad used to read namaz, called Bilal Masjid, in Makkah, you demolished that also. So, does masjid have no religious sanction? He said, no. Masjid is a building to enable reading of namaz. It is nothing more than that. Namaz can be read anywhere, including on the railway platform, while flying on an aeroplane, and this is a building to assemble people to read namaz and nothing more. In Pakistan, Musharraf also demolished 6 masjids. Then I thought saying, is there any place in India where the Supreme Court has spoken about it? Then I went to see, I saw a judgment of a constitutional bench in 1994 called Farooqi versus the Union of India. There the Supreme Court says, masjid is not a religious place. During British India, they used to demolish masjid. Masjid is a place to read namaz, and namaz can be read anywhere. That is there in the Supreme Court judgment, 1994, volume 6, page 370 of the Supreme Court SCC, Supreme Court Cases volume. You can see it there. So I am saying that why should we discuss with this Muslim community and say, you are also our people. Your ancestors are my ancestors. This is a masjid that you built on whatever reason you built it on a temple. Now we'll help you build it somewhere else. You want to read namaz, we'll build you a very nice masjid somewhere else. And the original temples of Vrindavan, Ram temple and Kashi Vishwanath, they should be restored to its original glory for the sake of our unity. The second thing is that to secure our borders, we have to deal with two problems. One is how to make China feel our pinch. Today China pinches us every day. And all that India government says is ayyo, ayyo. That is the thing that Tamils say whenever they want. Telugu also is ayyo, ayyo. I have Telugu relatives living in Visakhapatnam, but they never taught me this. Now, China is every day walking across, coming across. We have to somewhere be in a position to also create problems for them. Then the Chinese may come around to meet you. There's another development I'll tell you in a minute. In the Indian Ocean, just beyond Andaman Island, Nicobar Island actually, the lowest point used to be called some point, I forget, but now it's called Indira Point. Earlier on I forget what it was called, it was something else. The British had given it a name. Indira Point to Sumatra is only 90 kilometers. And the water that flows, the Indian Ocean water that flows is called Malacca Strait. What I found is that 90% of the Chinese freight transport carrying oil and export goods and import goods pass through the Malacca Strait. On other side is Indonesia, on this side India. Why can't we have a military pact with Indonesia and say that like Suez Canal, let us control Malacca Strait. And if Chinese creates a problem there, you close it down. And the Chinese cannot do anything. They don't have the machinery. Like this, we have many opportunities. China can never attack us across the McMahon line again, because our air force is now placed. We have Sukhois in Tezpur, and all you do is go bomb the supply line. Their supply line comes from Chengdu province. They cannot bring supplies from Tibet because they are not sure of Tibet. So therefore, first and foremost, develop strength against China to show that if you pinch me, I will kill you. See, that kind of atmosphere we have to build. The second thing I must tell you, today I'm a friend of China. I've been a friend of China for a long time because during Moraji's time, Moraji encouraged me to go and speak to the Chinese and tell them that if the Russians attack them, we will stay neutral. And the Chinese have never forgotten that just so I get invited every time there is a conference there, they invite me. So I just now went to a conference where I was the only one from India. They brought delegations everywhere. What is happening is that in Xinjiang province, Pakistan trained Uzbekis are now going through Kashmir, the portion which Pakistan holds, into China. And the Chinese are getting a little agitated. They have told Pakistan several times. But what Pakistan can do? The present government of Pakistan, of Nawaz Sharif, is a puppet government. It was elected with the help of Taliban, pro-Taliban forces, and the ISI, and the militaries. And today they cannot give you anything. There's no point in fact, Nawaz Sharif is now become the carbon copy of Manmohan Singh. If the two meet, they can live together forever. I have no problem. They are both important people who cannot deliver anything. So we have to now see if we can separate for our national security purpose China and Pakistan. It's too early to say. Americans are going to run away from Afghanistan very soon, next year, 2014. But mercifully after BJP comes to power. So Taliban gets Afghanistan, Taliban is controlling Pakistan. So we will have a war. Why? Because Taliban says that India is the incomplete chapter of Islamic history. How is it an incomplete chapter? This one Saudi Arabian told me, because he asked me a question. He one day asked me a question, why is India 80% Hindu? I said, why? What is surprising in that? He said, you see, we Muslims went to Iran, which was Zoroastrian, and 15 years after capturing it, we made it 100% Muslim. Next door, Iraq, which was then called Babylon and Mesopotamia, we captured it, and in 17 years we made it 100% Muslim. We went to Egypt, in 21 years we made Egypt 100% Muslim. Christians went to Europe, in 50 years they made it 100% Christian. But in your country, 800 years of Muslim rule, 200 years of Christian rule through the English people, and you're still 80%. How is that possible? Because our people fought, but it doesn't come in the history. You see it in Rana Pratap fought, Shivaji fought, Kattabomman fought in Tamil Nadu, Rani Chennamma fought here. You had these dynasties in Andhra which fought. Our people kept fighting. And we regard those who are fighters as heroes, even whether they won or lost. Rana Pratap lost, but we consider him equal to Shivaji who won because of that bravery, that commitment to India. When Rana Pratap lost everything, he was living in a forest and he was drying grass and making chapati out of it. That was his state. His cousin was living in grandeur in Jaipur, Man Singh. He came to meet him and he said, Akbar has sent me to you to make a proposal. He is willing to return your palace and your everything, provided you accept him as Badshah of India, the Emperor of India. So Rana Pratap said, no, I will not accept. So he said, then what are you going to do? Spend your life eating ghas ki roti, that is chapati made out of grass? What will you get out of it? He said, what I will get out of it? Future, all women will name their children, their sons after me. On your name they will spit. That's enough for me. That was the valor. The India, they never thought of themselves as Rajasthanis, or Shivaji ever thought. Shivaji formulated Hindu Rashtra. So therefore, we need to have that fighting spirit. And that fighting spirit can only come when we commit ourselves to it. Now you see, today, Kashmir, it was ours. Why? Because the instrument accession was signed by the Maharaja. Sardar Patel said, no, I will not send troops unless you sign. He signed. Now, after that, Jawaharlal Nehru goes to United Nations and said there is a dispute. Please bring peace. The Pakistanis have sent the army into our country because our Indian army was driving them away. But he was in a hurry to settle because Jawaharlal Nehru, you see, never listened to anybody on foreign policy except one person. That was Edwin Mountbatten. That's all. So he told him, your international image will go up. So he went to the United Nations. Why did he go to the United Nations? Nobody understands. And there the promise of plebiscite. Why plebiscite? The instrument of accession which 450 kingdoms signed to become part of India and 140 kingdoms signed to become part of Pakistan. They specifically say that Raja or the Nawab does not have to ascertain the wishes of the people. So, therefore the Raja doesn't have to ascertain the wishes of the people. This is Jawaharlal Nehru's promise, backed by Mountbatten. I went recently on 22nd May to Srinagar to give a speech, and the press conference they asked me, what about Nehru's promise of plebiscite? I said, go and ask Nehru. I didn't promise. They said, you are not bound by what the previous governments decide. I said, yes, if it's a cabinet decision, I am bound. But there was no cabinet decision, it was Jawaharlal Nehru's decision. Then they said, how we can go and ask Jawaharlal Nehru now? So go and ask a terrorist, he will send you there. So I don't understand why we are so defensive. The whole of Kashmir is a part of India. And we can take it if we decide. We get a more opportunity to use it. We got it in 71, we did not use it. So therefore, Kashmir, we must get back. They have driven out 500,000 Kashmiri Pandits out of India. They are refugees in your own country. How we can say we are 80% Hindu? What is the use? 5 lakh Kashmiri Pandits are living in refugee camps. I mean, most of them are living in squalid conditions. How can we say that we are an independent country when we can't protect our own citizens? And they are discriminated on the ground that they are Hindus. They are not come because they are traders or something like that. They were driven out, and at that time they made the announcement, the Hizbul Mujahideen and others, that we are driving them out so that Kashmir can become the new caliphate. So what shall we do? For national security, shall we send them back? No, they will all be butchered. So I am saying that, I am advocating that what we should do is, if they sent out 5 lakh Hindus out of Kashmir, we should send 10 lakh ex-servicemen and make them settle in Kashmir, give them weapons and give them money. Somebody said this is Article 370 will be violated. Article 370 says that no one should disturb the religious balance. But the terrorists have disturbed it by driving away the Hindus. So therefore now there is no Article 370. If you misuse it, if you don't live by it, I won't live by it. So there are measures we can. Same thing with Bangladesh infiltration. 1/3 of Bangladesh population come to India. They have transferred many districts from Hindu majority to Muslim majority. The problem with Muslim majority is, Muslims individually are very nice people. You can talk to them, you can joke with them, you can listen to poetry with them. But once they become majority, their mind becomes different. Because Muhammad has taught them very clearly that when you are in majority and in power, that is Darul Islam. And in Darul Islam, no minority will get anything. Saudi Arabia is Darul Islam. Can you build a temple there? There we have so many Indians. I think we have 2 million Indians working there. Can any of those Hindus build a temple there? Can they celebrate Diwali? No. Can they have Satyanarayan Puja inside their house? No. Can they put Ramchandraji's photograph in their pocket and go to work? No. All are punishable. They say no, this is Islamic state. We cannot allow anybody else. And where in India they are in majority, they are the same. You find that in Kashmir, they are demolishing temples left, right and center. They are not letting up people. If you are Hindus, they don't allow you to stay. You go to Malappuram in Kerala, same thing you find. Even a state like Tamil Nadu, where Muslims are only 5%, where they are in majority in small places like town panchayats, like in Mel Visharam, which I visited near Vellore, they are the same. There no Hindu can live peacefully. Or you go to Mau in Uttar Pradesh, where they are in majority, it's very clear. Where they are in a sizable minority and the majority is a Rasgulla type, soft, you see, like our in Hindu majority, there the Muhammad says, demand more, demand more. Go on demanding. First demand no uniform civil code. Then you say reservations. Then you say something else. Go on demanding till the majority loses its stamina and they surrender to you. And then he also says that if the majority is united and they can beat you up, then surrender. So in Australia, the Muslim minority accepts uniform civil code. One mullah said, I'm not happy with uniform civil code. So the Prime Minister of Australia said, if you don't like uniform civil code and you want Sharia law, you better go to some other country. In Australia, you will not get anything but uniform civil code. Next day, all Muslim organizations issued statements that this mullah is mad fellow. We are very happy with uniform civil code. Same thing in America. They accept uniform civil code in Australia, they accept it in America, but they won't accept it in India. Why? That's because their mind is clear. Our problem is not Muslim. Muslim mind is very clear. It is this Hindu mind which is confused. You see, it's like the Arjuna sitting in Kurukshetra. What shall I do? They say, they are my brothers and sisters. That Karna was, bending over to fix his chariot, and Krishna says, kill him. No, how can I kill him? This is not Kshatriya behavior. He said, yeah, when he pulled his sari off of your wife, that time it was Kshatriya behavior. And our dharma is very clear. You see, when Ram killed Bali, he hid behind a tree and killed him. So while dying, Bali said, hey, Kshatriya Putra, you call yourself Maryada Purushottam? You hid behind a tree and killed me. You could have come before me and had a straight fight. I would have considered you a man. So Ram says, who are you to give me lectures on morality? You stole Sugri's wife, you took away his kingdom, and you give me lectures on morality. Morality is only between two moral persons, not between one immoral. So Mahabharata and Ramayana is full. I don't know why we suddenly start talking about morality. So I would like to see India adopt any means to now get ready for the coming war with Pakistan. The Taliban will declare war. The question is whether you are going to be prepared or not prepared. Start preparing for today. And Pakistan is not a viable state. It can be broken any time in four parts. The Baluchis will separate any time. The Sindh will separate any time. So we have to have a strategy. The national security strategy is not only defensive, but is also offensive, where we can get things done. If we can manage to separate China and Pakistan, so that China also accepts, yes, this has become now a terrorist state and it's a big problem for us. In fact, Taliban is killing Chinese in Kabul. And the Chinese have complained to us. They are holding discussions now, very secret discussions with the Chinese on Kabul, on Afghanistan. After America goes, what shall we do? So I think in the larger strategy, we should try, and of course you must have strength to deal with China. So that China knows that if we decide to get aggressive, they'll be in trouble. Therefore, after that, we should try and separate Pakistan and China, and then take on Pakistan and bring an end to this menace called Pakistan. The last time we broke them into two, this time we should break them into four. That's how I think we should do it. Provided if they do these aggressive, if they will start talking peace and handing back Kashmir and all that, then we have no problem, because Pakistan is also, their ancestors are Hindus, and therefore I have no problem dealing with them. Their food, their jokes, their culture is very, very similar to ours, so we have no problem. So in this way, the Indian national security doctrine must have retaliatory power. It must retaliate. If the Bangladeshis have come one third, tell the Bangladeshis, we created Pakistan for those Muslims who cannot live, who said they cannot live with Hindus. Now, having got your territory, those Hindus are coming back to live with, those Muslims are coming back to live with Hindus. So you return one third of your territory to us so that we can keep our people there. Or you take your people away. That is the only way to deal with it. Retaliation is the part of what I call as the Virat Hindu mindset. You must be ready to retaliate when you are attacked. Then only we can create a strong national security doctrine. So I would conclude by saying, today the most debilitating part of our national security situation is corruption. It's a cancer. How can we remove it? There are three ways. One is short run, one is medium term, and one is long run. Short run, we can do it by, removing certain things which allow officers or politicians to have discretion. For example, there was a time we had a lot of corruption in railway reservation. Now, because of computerization, the corruption has gone down very sharply. We had a lot of corruption to get some forms for patta or something. Now you can download it in the computer. So corruption has gone down there. So there are some ways by which you can streamline the system, corruption will go down. That is not the whole picture. Then there is a question of prosecuting people who are highly placed. You prosecute one police constable and all, that's not no good. You catch the big people, because corruption goes from top to bottom. And therefore, if you catch the top people, then everybody will get away. So that's the second thing we have to do. When a new government comes, we must focus on this issue. Catch the people in the previous government who did corruption. There's plenty of information available. It's only the government of India which doesn't release this information. The Germans gave us names of 16 prominent people who had kept illegal bank accounts in Liechtenstein. The French gave us 884 names who had illegal bank accounts in Hong Kong, Shanghai Bank in Geneva. But the government of India will not release it. So there is no shortage, no information. Information is plenty. And we should use the Prevention of Money Laundering Act to grab their property so that they are left without any property. And there are law is also sufficient. I don't want new laws. These present laws are sufficient if you understand the law. So therefore, we can do by that also. But most of all, we have to bring back what Deen Dayal ji had said in his Integral Humanism. We must develop a psychology that material progress must be harmonized with spiritual values. We in India never made money the deciding factor for social status. In fact, the Western countries used to be surprised how we followed Mahatma Gandhi, because he was not even properly dressed. In America, you cannot be a politician unless you got the best suit and the best tie and the shining shoes and so on. Even their religious leader like the Pope, he is dressed in satin gown with jewels and diamond necklace around his neck, etc. Whereas our top sadhus are all in bhagwa, simple kapla. So we have made sacrifice as the most important value, not how much money you have. That psychology has to return. Yes, you make money, you have enough for your thing, for your needs. You must pursue material progress, but not to the extent that you become greedy. Today, corruption is because of greed. And this is what Deen Dayal ji has said in his Integral Humanism, that that capitalism is material, one-dimensional materialism. Communism is one-dimensional materialism. But India, the significant thing is the Sanatan Dharma is the blending of material progress with spiritual values. If that comes, corruption will automatically go down. And like before, when 1,000 years ago we were considered the most honest people in the world, will once again become honest. That will make our country strong, corruption-free society. So these three dimensions are the most important dimensions for our country. A country can prosper anytime. We got a young generation. The average age of an Indian is 28. Average age of an American is 38. The average age of a European is 46. The average age of a Japanese is 50. We have so many young people. Educate them properly. This democratic driven. We are able to do agriculture 12 months of the year, and yet we hardly use more than 25% of our land for growing more than one crop. We have no shortage of anything in this country, and no shortage of resources. You auction spectrum, you'll get 1,76,000 crores extra. You auction coal blocks, you'll get 11 lakh crores. And you auction oil fields of Krishna Godavari, you will get 24 lakh crore rupees. You will never need income tax at all. You can abolish income tax completely because you can get it by these methods. India has no shortage of resources. What it has is shortage of honest people, and that is what you have to do by uniting and putting good people into power. The ultimate national security is men and women of integrity. That is what we need in our country, and that is in your hands, because Vidyarthi Parishad breeds young people to become leaders, and we need to have a situation where more and more people enter politics for the purpose of serving the nation and not for the purpose of making money. Thank you very much.